Welcome to Discover Joyous Love with Anita DeFrancesco as your host. This is a hybrid of topics under the subjects of mindfulness, sexuality, and relationships. Hello, this is episode 35, and our topic today is casual sex emotionally healthy? Now, a lot of people think of sex as a sport, as a pleasure, or as love. What do you think of sex, and how do you approach your sexual life, your sexual being, and the partners that you choose, and how do you maintain that relationship of sex? Because remember, sex is something of a desire that people can get very selfish about, can get very hungry for. But to answer the question, is casual sex emotionally healthy? I'm going to say yes and no. And it all depends. So let's listen here for what I'm going to tell you. Let's think back of the sexual revolution, which I grew up in. And it was a time when people were free. They can go out and have sex without being married. There was a point when I was in high school, which I graduated in 1974, where you had to be married to have sex. But when Wilhelm Reich coined the term sexual revolution, when people were becoming more free to do what they wanted to do with who they wanted to do, without restrictions, without boundaries. Now, boundaries are something you always need, regardless of love sex or casual sex or affair sex. And boundaries are very important because people tend to neglect their emotions in the state of being in the moment of taking advantage of, say, a sexual moment. People tend to avoid their emotions. So people tend to lose that emotional connection with themselves when they're in a state of, let's say, a fantasy or an aggressive moment or a compulsive moment. And this is where people get caught up in what we call casual sex, because their body is running away from them and wanting to have this desire. Now, granted, desire will always be there. We cannot walk a straight line because it is not normal. And yes, we need to grow from our desires. So having casual sex is okay. But what I want to say is, back in the sexual revolution, it suppressed a lot of emotions because people were having sex with this one and that one, a lot of different partners, because sex was considered freedom, baby, freedom. And it was okay not to be married. But the emotions overall, looking at a bigger picture, got suppressed in a lot of people. And we're in a stage or an age right now where emotions are key. A lot of people are suffering in relationships today. They're married. There's a lot of cheating going on, infidelity, where the man or woman wants to have an affair. Going out to have sex is one thing, but having an affair is another, because an affair involves somewhat of a commitment and somewhat of feelings and emotion. Now, having casual sex is a way. Casual sex, okay, let's just say you're a single person and you're out there and you haven't found the right one. So you want to have sex because you have feeling. You want to exercise that part of yourself, and rightfully so. And you're exercising the physical, but where is the emotional? So the emotional tends to get neglected. And later on, it catches up to us. And we become stuck in ways as we grow. So think about all the casual sex you had. Now, is the casual sex you're having with the same person, say every other week, once a week? But is there communication to let this person know, or let each other know, that this is just a casual, fun thing and it's not going to go anywhere? But the casual thing is what I'm saying. As a Tantra wisdom is my work. As a Tantra teacher, casual sex can have emotion. You can have a healthy, emotional, non-committal relationship with someone where it involves sex. You can have a healthy, non-committal relationship with someone where it involves sex, where you're exercising and bringing in the emotions and healing each other in a way, in a direction of growth during that 6-month affair, that 5-month thing, that 3-month thing. That's the affair, okay? But it's going nowhere. But have you discussed that with the partner? Because what can happen is later on, people get misled. They get, not only do they get misled, but they can become somewhat of a problem in your life later, like a fatal attraction. Because we must address, the way I feel is that emotions are first. Sex will always be there. It is a physical thing. Now, some people treat it as a sport. A lot of men do. But are we always continually blocking the heart and neglecting the emotional, vulnerable self that we are, the emotion, the truth of who we are? And how do we progress into reaching that higher state, that higher power? Yes, you have to have, this kind of experimental sex with people as you're growing up. How do you learn? Yeah, think back when you were in your 20s, first time you had sex. A lot of time, the first time people think they're going to marry the person when they're 20 years old or 18, because it's the fantasy that is built in and conditioned that, marriage and sex, and babies. And we're in a different world. So there's a modernness that we need to adjust to. But we cannot continually neglect those emotions because it affects those around us. It affects ourselves. And when you do meet Mr. or Miss Right, and you get into that relationship with that person, then you are actually going to be suffering with your own emotions because you're going to be set back. So again, let's get back to, let's just talk about the pickup. Now is that casual sex, or is that just a pickup for a night? You meet someone, you're at a bar, and you both go back to a hotel room or her place or his place, and you have sex. And that's it. But I'm going to say something that a lot of the time, the woman is always expecting to see that person again. The man isn't. So you have to, even when you're just picking someone up for that moment of sex, it's almost best to just go out and pay for it for that one moment of sex with someone, because you will set back your own emotions and that person, and you're meeting someone and giving them hope, and okay, people feel again the sexual revolution. It's free and easy. We can go to bed on the first night. But you know what? You can't have sex on the first night. Especially when it's a pickup. Now, if you know in your heart that it's a pickup and you just need that physical attention, attraction, but there's always the emotion that will seep behind, that will get suppressed, and it will be there. It will play out later in life. So what I'm saying, if it is a casual affair, that's one thing. If it is a pickup, it's another thing, but they will still have emotional effect. So is casual sex emotionally healthy? Yes and no. Because, you're better off, what I say is you're better off having a short affair with someone. You meet someone, they're not the one, but you're young and you have feeling and you like that person. It doesn't mean, we have to get rid of the expectations. It's going to go somewhere. But a lot of time partners tend to, once they start to make love, they start to open up, they start to reveal their secrets, their shadows, their past problems, their things about growing up. And a lot of time people have expectations and they think this may be the right one. But if you look at it from a growth period, that it's growth. You have to raise to your higher power. Some people cannot even engage in casual sex or casual affairs. They are like, maybe have 3 relationships in their life and one is the one they marry. And others, because of the sexual revolution that we're in and the freedom that is there around sexuality and partners and just taking advantage of the whole thing about the human condition and sex, people will do it, but they still have emotions that they are neglecting, I feel. So you have to be on top of it and know that, hey, I'm going to have this affair. just for the experiment and to explore and learn from each other and do things together that maybe that person has things they want to share with you and you want to share with them, and going on trips or this or that or whatever, and it turns out to be a healthy friendship with sex. And at the end, there's no expectations, there's no fatal attractions, there's no you hurt me or revenge. So you have to know how to do it, folks. And having the orgasms, let's get to that. Sexual orgasms, no doubt about it, are healthy for you. The body is an orgasm. A sneeze is an orgasm. We need release. Okay, so having these orgasms, again, you can, of course, there's many other ways to have orgasms other than having sexual intercourse with someone. You of course, there's masturbation and things of that nature, but it is wonderful to be able to indulge with someone, but you need to have your heads together. There needs to be communication, honesty. There needs to be, hey, this isn't really going to go anywhere. Let's not, get caught up in something that could end up in fatal at the end. But the orgasms, they strengthen your immune system, okay? And, climaxing releases the chemicals that boost our levels of estrogen, testosterone, and they can improve the tone and texture of our skin, our hair, and they give us that blissful, glowing look in the face. And they make you feel hot. They, when you could be having multiple and getting better looking by the minute. So this orgasms also having sexual release is a stress relief, according to a study, which I don't have that study here, but it is a stress relief. Casual sex actually has a positive effect on the psychological well-being of those who have liberal views on sex. Now, if you don't have liberal views, casual sex isn't going to work for you. Now, if you're rigid in your thinking, you're not open-minded, you think you're one-on-one, and then you cheat on your partner, because remember, desire will always be there, and we're not designed to walk the straight line. So are you liberal or not in the sexual way, that is? Casual sex has a positive effect on the psychological well-being, again, with those of liberal views. But carefree sex will actually alleviate the anxiety and boost your self-esteem. So again, we tend to take sex for granted, and we tend to abuse it, use it, and it becomes a painful thing just for those moments of pleasure, that moment of release, that moment of getting high, that moment of bliss. But you can do this all in a better way if you plan it and have communication with that partner, and you have not only the communication, but the emotional healing that goes on between each other, that you're healing and preparing yourself for the next one, for the right one in life, because we do need practice. Now, you don't want to be one of those people that you meet Mr. or Mr. Right and you've never done it before, or you never had any emotional practice. Now, I have people that have come to me that say, I dated one person in my life and I met Mr. Right. I don't know how to act emotionally. We must exercise the emotions. This is the key. To me, sex is an emotion, regardless if it's a pickup, regardless if it's a casual relationship for 3 months, regardless if it's with someone of a different age, old, young, regardless, it's an emotion that needs attention and should not be abused. This is where I'm going with this. So is casual sex emotionally healthy? Yes and no, depending on you, depending on your views, the way you think. These emotions can fall back in a pattern, and over time, when you get with the right person, those emotions that you blocked during that casual sex affair, that you kept blocking, you will not be able to open them when you get into the real relationship that you want. And then that's when you and the wife start going to therapy. Okay? Because those emotions got blocked because of all the casual sexual relationships you had along the way, without expressing them, without feeling them, without making them be alive. Because you were afraid that, expectations, commitment, I don't want this person, I just want to have this affair. So you really got to pay attention to those emotions. Again, it really boils down to communication, and it boils down to healing each other during the process, whatever it is. But then again, we got a lot of selfish people in the world because they are conditioned that way. They're conditioned to be hey, I want all for me. Now, there's also, I'm going to do a topic next time on shame, but the walk of shame, while walking home to a house of dudes celebrating your overnight escapades makes you feel like the man. This is a night of, I'm reading something from an article here. The walk of shame can be disorienting and uncomfortable, and is often accompanied by a serious hangover. If you find yourself in a morning after situation, it means you slept over a no-no in the casual sex department. Sleepovers will only lead to emotional attachments. Well, anyway, here's the thing. A lot of people in casual sex don't want to be attached, but there has to be some form of communication if you don't want that, because the attachment will happen once you start opening up the feelings of sex. So a shame will develop and build. And a lot of people are struggling with shame, guilt, to shame and hiding, addictions. And all of this revolves around, it boils down to the epicenter of sex, the sexual oral fixation that children, that part of us that develops. And so all I want to say is there are pros and cons of having, casual sex. And yeah, it's I'm not saying not to have it. I'm just saying to be more mindful. So getting back to, it is okay, but there's what attachment theory is about. It postulates that human beings evolved to form lasting intimate relationships, and casual sex contradicts this, and therefore it is considered bad. But again, there's a lot of issues around sexuality, and of course you have a lot of religious issues around Christianity, Judaism, Islam. Is many different views on who should and when should you have sex with who. Now there's the sexual script theory that says sex involves learned predictable roles. Casual sex is often impulsive and unpredictable. It's questionable. And again, it is an impulsive act. But like I said, if it's just the pickup for the night, it should be okay. But if it's the affair that you're going to, or the person you're going to see once a week, it's an affair and it's casual. Even if you're going to see them once every 2 weeks, it's casual. It's a casual sex affair, but you need to make it known to the partner. Now, again, there's also the thought of the woman is in her reproductive stages, that she may want to have a baby, and a lot of time the casual sex can make that happen for her. And whether you're going to be together or not is a whole nother story. But casual sex can feel good and it can feel bad. So like I said, is casual sex emotionally healthy? Yes and no. And it could feel good. It could feel bad. But a lot of studies showed that people feel fine after casual sex in some studies. And that's not surprising because, that impulsiveness, that moment of fantasy, that orgasmic release is a great feeling. But some studies showed mixed emotions. And again, it all depends on the way you think and what you've been exposed to as a child in your teachings and how open-minded you are. But again, we need the practice for the right one, because how do you learn? How do you learn? So you've been listening to Discover Joyous Love. I'm your host, Anita DeFrancesco. Thank you for tuning in. And this is episode 35, Is Casual Sex Emotionally Healthy? You can find me at tantrawisdom.com. And I also have books available, the Donna Gentile story, which is the Donna Gentile story.com, which is available on Amazon, and also the Live Free book that I have, which is also available at tantrawisdom.com. I want to thank you for tuning in. Discover Joyous Love.